what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. Ashton Stamps is running with the ones. No surprise there. Stamps showed a lot of potential last year. I believe our own intrepid gumshoe journalist, Taylor Sharp, weren't you on the Ashton Stamps train from camp last year, I believe? So Stamps is developing kind of how we thought he would, and he showed some potential. But there's a freshman running with the ones opposite of him, which I actually find to be pretty shocking for a couple of reasons, right? I mean, and let's not, okay, I want to be clear. I don't want to make too much of this. It's spring, it's one day, whatever, right? But if we were talking about names to potentially start, I'd have Toviano in there. J.K. Johnson is somebody who you've been hearing good things about. Now, of course, Zy Alexander is still recovering from injury, and that's, so it's impossible to predict where he's going to fall in that pecking order. But I would not have thought it was P.J. Woodland. And yet, Blake Baker said, look, he's physical, he can run. He's been really impressed by him. And so P.J. Woodland, he's an early enrollee, already starting to run with the ones, a 3-star out of Mississippi. And if you're feeling that little tingle in your belly, I'm kind of with you, man, because sometimes with these DBs, these dogs, they can, the underrated ones are so hungry for success. I mean, I guess I saw it firsthand with somebody like Tyrann Mathieu, which is obviously the most extreme edge case of something like this. But they're so hungry for success and so overlooked that they get there and all they want to do is work and just kick ass and work. And it sounds like that's exactly what P.J. Woodland's doing. So, again, I'm not saying he's a starter or anything, but am I like, okay, let's play. Who are the names that could potentially start a corner? Obviously, Ashton Stamps probably going to. J.K. Johnson. Who else did we just say?
Toviano.
Yeah, sorry. Toviano, Woodland, Zy Alexander returns.
Jair Brown, who you brought in from Ohio State.
Yep. So that's kind of crazy, though, that Woodland would be getting any ones reps over those guys. Like, that shows that he's doing well, man. Shout out to him. Yesterday, Blake Baker, he met with the media. And let's get to some of these comments. First off, he talks about the interior defensive line, which, as we know, is, if you're playing a video game, it is the glowing weak spot on the boss saying, shoot here, does extra damage. This is how you'll beat me. Here's what Coach Baker had to say about the D-line.
I think they're getting better every day. I think Coach Davis is really doing a nice job with them. And we have some pieces to work with in there. We have some guys that have played some football, some new faces, some guys obviously we moved from the offensive line. So I would say it's a work in progress, but I will say that they have shown improvement daily. So that's kind of where we're at.
Ooh. It's honest. It's honest in the work in progress. But that's also, I mean, you read between the lines. Right, there's a subtext there that's kind of like, ugh. So, work in progress. We'll see. But hey, they're getting better. I would hope so, right? Hey, if nothing else, game day. Like, I don't think this D line's going to be great on the interior, obviously, but game day should be significantly easier than practice the majority of the time because they are going against one of the best. They're going against one of the best offensive lines in the entire country, if not the best. So, if nothing else, they should get to the game and say, okay, this is actually a bit easier than having to go up against Dellinger and Frazier and Campbell and Jones and DJ Chester. Blake Baker was asked about coming back to LSU, actually after kind of being forced to find his fortune and make his way in Mizzou. This is Baker too.
We were really, really excited, We really did enjoy our time in Columbia, and Coach Drinkwitz was absolutely phenomenal, and we're still really close, which made it a tougher decision, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, the opportunity to be close to home, be close to family. My kids right now are at their grandma's. They're on spring break. They're at their grandma's in Mandeville right now for the week. So things like that, you just can't take for granted when you get the opportunity in this profession, especially at a place like LSU. This, to me, has always been one of those dream jobs. When I first got into coaching, actually, even before I got into coaching, I've always, dreamed of being the defensive coordinator here. And so when the opportunity arose, I kind of took everything and we sat down as a family and thought it was the best decision for our family, but very, very happy to be back.
So I mean, look, it's you can sit here and you can be cynical about it, but let's say it really was the dream job, or even amongst the top three. What an incredible feeling it must be to not only get that job, but also get the $2.5 million salary that comes along with it. The only thing now is you got to perform, right? In Spider-Man, they say with great power comes great expectation. Well, in football, with great money comes great expectation. And if you look at last year with Matt House, that's one of the reasons why people are so angry. I mean, you're paying this guy $2 million to put together one of the most passive and ineffective defenses we've ever seen, one of the worst in the entire country. And if you've listened to the offseason comments from the players, one of the themes has been about the aggressiveness of Baker versus the passivity of Matt House's defense, right? And like House's defense was so terrified of making a mistake, of having an MA, a missed assignment, that they just tried to read and react to everything. React was the word. I like defenses to dictate. I like defenses to take the initiative, even if it opens you up to risk. And here is Baker
I think the style of defense we play helps, but I also think really just trying to allow our kids to play free. There's a lot of opportunities to make plays within the scheme. And so just small things as far as, again, when I say style of play, we want to be a vertical one-gap defense where we're creating havoc in the backfield. But I think keeping it simple for our guys and then trying to make it complicated on the offense. And I think the way that we install the defense from a verbiage standpoint, we try to compartmentalize things. I think all those things kind of foster that. But then most importantly to me, it's an attitude, it's a mindset, and it starts with how we take the field every single day. And I've been pleased with our guys. They've really taken to it, as far as what we're trying to do from a culture standpoint.
So I love that philosophy, and it's very similar to what Dave Aranda used to espouse. This idea that like you ultimately want to have a system, and how you do this, it's like so easy to say, right? It's like anything else in life where, yeah, of course, like if you do these things, you'll be successful. The magic comes in the guys that can figure out ways to do it. But it's this idea that you make it look super complex to the offense and kind of try to confuse them with how you're lining up and where pressure's coming from. But somehow you make it super simple to your guys so that they're not even really thinking. And in that way, they're able to let their athleticism shine. Because all, have you ever played like FTL or any like space game, or you watch like Star Trek back in the day, and they're putting like, we need all powers to the front shields, or 20% more to the engines. Like everybody has finite resources, okay? And in football, it's no different. And it's almost like every resource percentage point that you have to commit to the mental takes out of the physical, and vice versa. And you can't be 100% either way. You can't, because at the end of the day, you have to think, right? Duh. But the point is, on defense especially, the less thinking, the better, because it allows you to maximize your defense, your athleticism, and the points that you're applying there. Let's go to Harold Perkins here, because obviously the big question is inside linebacker. Why is he back there? Is that the best role for him? Here's why Blake Baker thinks he is better suited to play on the inside this year.
Schematically, I really don't even know what they did last year, so I can't answer that from a schematic standpoint. But inside linebacker, to me, it's an instinctual position, but the way you gain instincts is by getting reps. So the more and more reps he gets, the more and more he continues to grow, and you've seen that so far. But that's really what it's going to come down to is making sure that we can maximize his reps, maximize him seeing different looks, and then playing off of that, and then simplifying the game for him. I think you go back to 21 with Damone Clark, same thing is everybody said, oh, he can't play inside linebacker. He can't. If you simplify the game for any kid, they can do what you ask them to do. And that's part of being a good coach, in my opinion, is asking a kid to do something that he can physically do and then demand he do it. So he'll be just fine. I'm excited about him.
Ooh, sounds like a pretty confident answer right there, Bo. Also, again, that philosophy that we just talked about at the 4 of his answer. All right, get to Baker 8 here. This is how they're going to use Harold Perkins.
Hold on, real quick. Fire alarm goes off in the middle of his answer.
I assumed that it was like, He was talking about it.
So just a heads up.
All right, cool.
But he's growing exponentially.
Oh, that was a great
I think
clip.
Perk has done a phenomenal job buying into what we want to do. I know that's always the number one question I get is, how are you going to use Harold? I think you can use Harold in a variety of different ways. I think we have to start him somewhere and get him really good at that. But he's so explosive. He's got an innate ability to really turn the edge, So, again, we're going to find out what he does best, and we're going to utilize his skill set. And hopefully, matchup-wise, do it against their worst player. He can play inside linebacker. He's grown exponentially, and it's hot in here. But he's grown exponentially as far as his you want me to stop or keep going?
Those are very thoughtful answers, and hopefully a bit of foreshadowing, right? As Harold Perkins should be burning down SEC offenses this fall. I love that answer about matchups, because so often we are guilty. And by the way, I think these are very thoughtful answers from Blake Baker. Like, this is not just pure run-of-the-mill coach speak. Now, obviously that's an interview setting, and so it's always going to be a bit measured. But again, I think he's being thoughtful here. But I love the idea of matchups because we only think about him from the offensive side of the ball, right? Getting your playmakers out there in space, getting the ball, trying to line up like your guy in the slot against a linebacker, right, who's too slow to keep up with him. We rarely think about manufacturing matchups on the defensive side of the ball. And so to hear that be at the top of the mind for Baker, and then to think about how you take advantage of that, identifying weakness, during a game week when you're game playing, identifying weaknesses on the offense, and then specifically trying to exploit said weaknesses with Perk lining up on like a guard who's maybe weak or a tackle that gets confused by coverage. Like I really like hearing that. Okay, let's do one more. Here's Blake Baker. Let's do Baker 14. This is Blake Baker on what he's seen from the secondary thus far.
I've seen some ups and downs. The one thing I'll say is we got guys that'll attack the football. We've done a really, really good job on the back end creating turnovers, especially Sage Ryan sticks out to me. He's had several takeaways this spring. Major Burns has had a really good spring so far. I think the corners have probably grown more than any group from practice 1 to practice, what are we in, 11, 12, somewhere like that? I don't know what it is, but those corners have gotten much, much better, really as a unit. I think we have guys probably playing a little more in their natural position on the back end than maybe in the past, so I've been pleased with them. I think we got to continue to grow, and that would be, the motto across summer workouts and everything, but I do think we have some really good pieces to work with back there. I think we have good depth as well. Okay,
Sage Ryan, I see you, and that's a pretty encouraging answer on the secondary, right? And it's kind of funny. Judge that answer against the interior defensive line answer, and you see like what the real weakness is, right? Like that's actually a confident answer. And when we've talked about it in the past, when you look at that secondary, it's like, I think you have the talent. I just don't know exactly which names are going to emerge. But it's interesting to think about someone like Sage Ryan, who definitely improved last year and became a bit of a playmaker, one of the few guys that flashed. But it's interesting to think that, like, he came in with so much hype, and then he hasn't really necessarily lived up to that hype. It just kind of comes with the territory of being a 5-star. But, like, maybe there's more there than we know. And I guess that goes for this entire defense because of how they had been coached in the past. Well, okay, real quick, speaking of secondary, let's actually hear what he said then on PJ Woodland. This is Baker 6, and then we'll go.
Competitiveness. PJ Woodland is a competitor. He's feisty. He'll throw it in there. He's physical, and he can run. But more than anything, for a freshman or a high school senior, as you put it, we've thrown him out there with the one some, thrown him out there against our top receivers, and he competes. And that's where it starts. But he's got the physical tools. And so I've been really, really impressed by him. It wasn't easy. I promise you, those first 3 days before spring break, he probably thought, what in the world did I do? Coming here early. But, man, he's been really impressive these last few days.
Yeah, feisty tells me all I need to know. This is just one of those guys who's just hungry, doesn't give a damn, and is going to go out there and scrap. And yeah, he might get burned, but who cares? Because he's still going to come back and feel like I'm the man, and I'll fight you anyway. So I thought this was very enjoyable from Blake Baker. Thoughtful answers, feel, increasingly confident about this LSU defense and Baker being at the fore of it. And, yeah, it's off season, sunshine pumping season, if you will. But I thought those were legitimately good answers. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.